r/s credit doctors and nurses of Reddit, what have been your why didn't you come in sooner moments? I admitted a woman in her 40s, she had a massive uterine prolapse just hanging out of her vagina. The thing had caused her to go septic. It was necrotic and was sloughing off. Let me tell you, it smelled awful. Probably the worst smell I've come across. Apparently she's been treating her prolapse with hydrogen peroxide and witch hazel for months. We had a rather big IQ and the smell was so bad PPL in the air smelled it. We put her in a negative pressure room, which helped. She waited too long. Psychiatry doctor here. Every single person who gets brought to hospital after a suicide attempt, please reach out. Help is available. If you're struggling with your mental health, call your family, call your friends, call your doctor, whoever it is you feel you can talk to. If you don't want to talk to any of those, there are great charities like the Samaritans who are available 24/7 to talk to anyone about anything. Edit. Spelling. Lady had a fixed lump slightly larger than a golf ball in the outer left quadrant of her breast. She was basically in denial. BC her reported history was all normal. I hope she's doing okay. Obligatory, not a doctor or a nurse, but when I was 14, I once fell from a 2-story water bouncer and got my leg caught in the ropes that supported its slide and dislocated my whole leg. Family brought me home cause mom thought I only bruised my leg, even though I told her it's more than that. A week passes and my leg was still dislocated. I was limping everywhere and went around the house using an old office chair with wheels. Mom got annoyed and told men to start walking, cause that isn't very painful, but I disagreed until I cried. My brother and mom brought me to the hospital for my mom to prove me wrong, only to find the doctor and AE say, why the fuck am I admitted so late? If left alone any longer, my vessels and nerves would have faced perma damage. I was in a cast for 2 to 3 weeks and my mom never doubted my physical illness after that. I'm a nursing assistant, so I should have known better. Severe abdominal pain, but this happened to me. I got a pinchy pain in my left ovary area which over the course of about 45 minutes developed into intense, agonizing pain. Like, on the floor howling and sobbing type of pain. My boyfriend was extremely concerned and told me he was going to call the ambulance, which I refused. I can't tell you why. I don't know. Australian, so not a money issue. He told me if I wasn't better in half an hour he would call the ambulance and I asked him to just get me into some hot water. I sat in the bath for a while and the pain eased a bit. My poor boyfriend had no idea what to do, so he handed me a glass of cold milk and a cigarette. Bless. And I slowly came back to myself, and we carried on as normal, though I was exhausted and pretty tender. I trucked on for 10 days working a very labor heavy job in a nursing home with the pain sort of just coming and going and me ignoring it thinking I'd be fine. So evening of day 10 we're at a mate's house, and he tells me, you're not fine. You haven't been okay all week. You look fucked. Go to the doctor. I sort of went, ah fine, fuck yeah, then I'll go to shut your ass up. And it's a damn good thing I did. The pain that morning was nigh unbearable, and I was home alone, sobbing and pleading with no one to make it stop. Taxi picks me up, takes me to doctor, and he listens to me for a minute and goes, so do you wanna call a cab, or shall I just call the ambulance? You need to go to the ER now. I had an ectopic pregnancy in the left tube that had ruptured, and I was filling up with blood. Doctor said I likely had a few hours left before I passed out and or went into shock. They took the tube out and patched me up. They drained nearly 2 liters of blood from my body. Don't ignore abdominal pain, yo. I was a patient. And I did, but the doctors blew off treating me. TLDR, hurt shoulder while deployed. No big deal until it was, and then nobody would look at it. Finally had surgery 2.5 years after injury, but too much damage done. Got medical discharge and 80% disability from VAB. I was in Kuwait on my way into Iraq in 2006. Working out in the gym one morning doing a shoulder press when my shoulder gave out and I heard a pop. Didn't think too much of it at that point since there was zero pain. I rested it for a couple of weeks and then back to normal PT/workouts. We had spent 15 months in Iraq, wearing the usual loadout, body armor, load carrying vest, weapon. By the time we left my shoulder would get sore, but never anything crazy. I thought it was from carrying all of that shit every day. After being back stateside for several months, I started really noticing the shoulder again. It just kept steadily getting worse. One day we had a unit sports day where basically each company within the battalion puts together teams for various sports and plays to see who is going to win a fancy streamer for their DIDN. Morale/team building events in the army were usually the worst, but this sort wasn't so bad. I had planned on playing on my company's soccer team, but none of the other companies had enough guys interested to actually put together a team. So we all wander off to other events. The ultimate football games had gathered a crowd, and I head over that way. And the ultimate football was along the rules of ultimate frisbee. You had to stop where you caught it and throw from there. Couldn't run after catching, etc. Well, with a bunch of testosterone-filled idiots in an infantry unit, you could imagine how that worked. Turned into a full-on tackle game in about 30 seconds. So we are playing along until one play, when I wrap a guy up to tackle him. I felt something in my shoulder. Almost felt kind of like a cramp, but it wasn't terrible. I rested the rest of the day and went on home after the conclusion of the festivities. Until I laid down in bed that night, I felt the single most god-awful pain I have ever felt in my shoulder. My then wife ended up taking me to the ER where they declared it was overuse and to rest it for 2 weeks. Fast forward to 2 weeks later, and nothing had changed. The 800 milligrams ibuprofen the army hands out like cough drops weren't doing a damn thing for it. So I went off to sick call in the morning. Our unit doc just casually looked at the ER report and said just keep resting it for another 2 weeks. So I did. Over and over for a solid 3 to 4 months. So one day I'm heading to sick call to tell doc the same thing yet again when wait. We got a new doc. One of our medics takes me up to him. Hey, sir. This is Sergeant Derelvision. He has this shoulder thing going on forever. You want to take a look? He looked at me for about 5 seconds and tells me stand with your feet and back touching that wall. He looked at the medic and the medic's jaw dropped. He looked back at me and said one of your shoulders is sitting about 3 inches lower than the other. I'm going to send you for an x-ray. So off to the x-ray I go. Doc gets the x-ray images and says that nothing is broken, but stuff is definitely out of place. He refers me to orthopedics. I head to my first orthopedics appointment. Usual cursory introductions and explanation of my injuries. He does a real quick 10-second check and schedules me for some physical therapy. So I did 3 months of physical therapy. No change in the shoulder. So at my next appointment he schedules me for a contrast MRI to figure out what's going on. I get the MRI and the needle they inject that dye with sucks just FYI. He gets the results and confirmed 75% of the cartilage in my shoulder was no longer attached. He reviewed it and said he basically had no idea how I was still using the arm other than the muscles on my left side had all bulked themselves up to basically hold my arm in place. He started everything to schedule me for surgery then and there. I had the surgery finally about 2.5 years after the initial injury in Kuwait. Doctor told me when they put me under and the muscles around my shoulder relaxed, he could just pull my shoulder straight out of the socket. He referred me to physical therapy again. I did therapy again for 9 months with no progress in the shoulder. After about the 3-month mark, I couldn't raise my left arm above shoulder height. Severely limited my ability to hold and fire a weapon. Doctor said he could do another surgery. I can keep doing PT, or he can start the medical discharge process. I said let me think about it for a bit. Scheduled a follow-up for a week later. At this time, I had done physical therapy/surgery recovery for over a year and my unit had just deployed to Afghanistan. Well, our rear detachment, the group that didn't deploy with the unit for one reason or another, were treated like shit. All of the leadership seemed to think that we were just trying to come up with excuses not to deploy, including me who was still doing physical therapy ordered by my surgeon. Well, in this time, the base was putting together a color guard unit for large events. Think like the color guard units at Major League sports games. The base command sergeant major liked me, wanted me on the color guard. He understood the situation with my shoulder. I was to carry one of the flags, since they are supported with belts and I wouldn't really have to lift anything heavy or lift it high. Well, about a week later, the day before my follow-up with my surgeon, our really first sergeant, who had zero issues but none of our companies wanted him in Afghanistan, calls me into his office. He tells me he has orders coming down for me to deploy. I explained my profile, list of things I can't do, from my surgeon, to him. He said nope. If you can carry a flag, you can carry a rifle. I explained the flag is held by the belt and I'm only stopping it from tipping forward. I explained that I also could not wear body armor, lift anything above shoulder height, etc. He didn't give a damn. Told me I was malingering, and I would be deployed. I followed up with the base CSM, but he said he didn't want to deal with the hassle as he had a large number of guys to choose from. So I went to my follow-up with my surgeon and told him start the medical discharge. Explained what happened. He started then process and must have started something else because as I was going through the medical review board process, we had multiple investigations in our rear detachment focusing on the top 2 enlisted. I'm not sure whatever came of them and really didn't give a damn. I ended up being medically discharged and currently receive 80% disability from the VAB. And the color guard I would have got a free on-field view of the MLB All-Star game that year too. This was me, and rather why didn't you go to the I had MCL reconstruction in high school. At the time I was competing nationally as an equestrian, training horses, that fun stuff. After I healed from surgery I was competing again. Anyway, in competition I landed off a 4-feet jump, and the pressure from landing snapped my patella in half. The swelling was immediate, my britches has to be cut off, and my mom just drove me home. I think I was 15 at the time. I was thinking I just accidentally dislocated my patella. Went to school that next day, this happened on a Sunday, and had a nap with my surgeon in the afternoon Monday. Sure enough my patella was broken clear in half. My surgeon was baffled that I had made it that long, and was pissed at my mom for not taking me to the I volunteered at my local emergency department before going to uni, and on guy came in with a big bandage on his foot. He had been walking on it, so I assumed when I met him it was healing, or a cut on the top of his foot. Nope. When the doctor unraveled the bandage a nail was poking out through the top of his foot. If you think that would look bad the smell was worse, rotting flesh incubated in a moist bandage. He didn't want to come in as though he could remove it himself and just plaster it up. But when he went to do it he fainted. He waited 2 weeks to get checked out. I stopped volunteering a few weeks after. Man came in with infection around tracheostomy B tube, artificial airway that's inserted via neck, that was put in 5 years ago. That things needs constant care, at least once a day dressing change, in a cannula change, etc. Anyways when I tried to change the whole trach tube, obviously he stated he didn't do anything with it for the last 5 years and was filthy. That sucker didn't even budge to come out. That tube was literally stuck to his flesh. When I finally used all my force to yank that thing out, my goodness I'm surprised he was alive at that point. Tube was filled with infected bacteria and the smell was something I've never smelled before in my life. BTW, he stopped going to the hospital for the care of his tube due to his insurance being terminated. Thanks America for the great healthcare system. That's the end of the video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Stay safe everyone.